Hello and welcome to my channel. In this section of the video, we are going to cover 10 practice questions that you should expect to have gone through before you take your PMP exam. So these are the practice questions which I've also created. However, my extra effort was to link these specific practice questions to pages or sections in the PMBOK edition 8, where you can also go and make reference in case there are some weak areas you've discovered as you practice. You can also make reference to the PMBOK, and then you can also get some explanations. So these 10 practice questions, they are also helpful because we are going to cover the question, and then we are also going to cover the answer, and then we are also going to make a reference to the PMBOK 8th edition, which is the current version, where you are going to be able to go through the concepts, the ideas, the domain, and also the process groups. So these 10 questions, they are going to be a mixture of easy, hard, and very hard questions. But I believe the moment you go through them, the moment you understand the concept of eliminating some of these answers, the better for you as you go to as you go to your PMP exam. So let's move on. So question number 31. The team wants to skip a review to save time. What should the project manager do? Okay. So what is our problem statement? The team, they want to skip a review to save time. Okay. So the difficulty here is easy. So let us go through the answers now. Explain the quality purpose. Okay. And look for efficient ways to complete the review. Okay. This makes sense because I'm seeing it's targeting to resolve the review issue here. Then B, approve skipping all reviews. This is very dangerous. In a project, you don't skip reviews. They are very important. You cannot skip reviews to save time. It might also affect quality, making this an incorrect answer. Remove quality criteria from the plan. You don't remove quality criteria. The purpose of doing a project or to produce a deliverable is to have high quality, making this an incorrect answer. Wait for the customer to find defects. You don't give defects to customers. It might be very costly to correct defects once they are discovered by the customer as compared to discovered during development process, making this incorrect answer. Therefore, in this scenario, the correct answer is A. Explain the quality purpose, okay, and look for efficient ways to complete the review, which is very important. All right, and what is our reference here? We need to embed quality processes and deliverables in a project. And our mindset that should be applied to this particular scenario is you need to protect quality without being rigid about how it's going to be done. So this is very important. This is a very important mindset. Everything that you do in a project must be quality checked, must be quality protected, making A the best answer, okay? Because it reviews and protects quality. It can also be optimized without abandoning controls, making A the best answer. Right, practice question number 32. A project manager receives conflicting priorities from two stakeholders. What should they do first? So the word first is there. Once you see the word first, it means you need you need to get more information before you actually act, which means review, evaluate, analyze, and so on and so forth. So what is our problem statement? A project manager is receiving conflicting priorities, okay, from two stakeholders. So let's go through the answers now. Facilitate alignment and clarify priorities through the proper decision path. This makes sense. You are facilitating alignment. This word is very important. Alignment, because there are two stakeholders giving conflicting priorities. B, choose the loudest stakeholder's priority. This is not the best way to act in a project. Someone might be the loudest, but does not mean that they are giving things which make sense. So making this incorrect answer. Ignore both priorities. You don't ignore things in a project. Priorities, challenges, issues, risks in a project should not be ignored. So making this incorrect answer. Ask the team to work on both without analysis. You need to analyze. You cannot just ask the team to work on conflicting priorities. It has to be analyzed and prioritize them. So making this an incorrect answer. And therefore, A is the best answer in this scenario. You need to facilitate alignment. This is very important. Facilitate alignment and also clarify priorities through proper decision path. making A the best answer here. And what is our reference to our PMBOK? Stakeholder performance domain, which is also on page 67. And what is the mindset that we have here? You need to bring stakeholders together and clarify decisions. So these are two stakeholders which are who are giving us competing priorities or conflicting priorities. So the best is to bring these two together, okay, and have an alignment in terms of what needs to be done, making A the best answer, because conflicting priorities, they require alignment and not guess. You should not be guessing or overloading the team. All right, making A the best answer. Practice question number 33. A risk owner reports that a trigger condition has occurred. What should happen next? This is very important. So a risk owner is saying there's a trigger for a risk that has happened. What should happen? Okay, so the problem statement is there's a risk owner who is reporting that a trigger condition has occurred. So let us go through the answers now. Execute the planned response or reassess if needed. Okay, makes sense. The risk has been triggered. Okay, so delete the risk because it is now inconvenient. You don't delete risks in a project. Keep the history, making this incorrect. Then on C, ignore it unless the sponsor asks. You don't ignore issues or risks in a project environment. You have to confront the risk. You need to confront the issues in a project environment, making this incorrect. Then on D, close the project immediately. You don't close the project because there's a risk. All right, that is the trigger condition is okay. So making this incorrect answer. So the best answer here is A, which is you need to execute the planned response. So when you create your risk register, you are also putting the risk responses. All right. So what is our reference here? Is risk performance domain, which is on page 92. All right. And what is the mindset that we're applying here? Act when trigger occurs. So when you capture your risk, you're also capturing the responses. So if it materializes that risk, it means you now have to apply the risk responses, making A the best answer, because the trigger indicates that a risk response or assessment is now needed. So A is the best answer in this scenario. Right, practice question number 34. A project requires specialized skills that the team does not have. What should the project manager do? Okay, we consider this to be easy. So what is our problem statement? A project requires specialized skills and the team does not have that specialized skill. So one of the mindset is if you don't have the knowledge or the skills, you need to ask for help from the experts. All right, so let's go through the answers now. Plan how to obtain or develop these required skills. Makes sense. Hope the team learns without support. As a project manager, you're supposed to support the team. You're supposed to develop the team to acquire new skills to improve even their efficiency, making this an incorrect answer. Remove the related deliverables without approval. You don't do this in a project. A deliverable is coming from the customers or users. So you cannot just go and remove them, making this an incorrect answer. Then D, blame the team for the skill gap. You don't blame your team in the project. Remember, during execution, one of the process is to develop your team. You must make sure your team is trained enough for the project, making this an incorrect answer. Therefore, the best answer in this scenario is A. You need to plan how to obtain, okay? You need to plan how to obtain or develop the required resources in a project environment. So what is our reference here is resource performance domain, which says resource performance domain includes planning resources, okay, estimating, acquiring resources, leading the team, monitoring, and also controlling resources. So as you plan for your resources, you also need to plan for training, especially for the skills which does not exist within your team. So the applicable mindset to respond to this practice question is you need to acquire and develop capabilities. This is very important, needed for delivery. So this team, in this case, they don't have a specific skill, right? So what should the project manager do? You need to develop the capabilities which is lacking in the team, making A the best answer because resource planning includes identifying and also obtaining needed skills, making A the best answer. All right, practice question number 35. A change request is approved. What should the project manager update? So change request has been approved. What should the project manager update? All right. So we consider this to be an easy practice question, right? So what is our problem statement? The change request has been approved. So there's a change request that has been approved. What should the project manager do or update? All right. So the first one is the relevant baselines, plans, and impacted project documents. Makes sense because a change is to something that has been baselined before. Only the meeting title. This does not resolve the problem. So automatically you can eliminate this problem, this answer. There's no way you can choose this answer. Then C, nothing because approval is enough. No, even if approval is done, approval is going to result in some other documents being updated in the project management process. So making this an incorrect answer. Only the sponsor's calendar. This does not help. I don't know if someone is going to choose this answer. So we eliminate it straight away. So the best answer here is actually A, all right? The relevant baselines must be updated, okay? The plans also must be updated, and also the impact or impacted documents should also be updated. So if a change has been approved, okay, the project manager should always update the baselines, the plans, and also impacted documents. So what is our reference for our peer book? It has to be governance performance domain, all right? Which is on page 10 to 37. All right, and then the applicable mindset in this scenario is you keep the plans and the baselines aligned with the approved decision. So as you go through the project, in most cases, it's unusual to find a project where you don't find any changes. So as the changes are coming in, as the changes are getting approved, if it's a predictive environment, they're approved by the CCB. If it is an agile environment, they're approved by the product owner and reprioritized in the product backlog. So as they come, make sure that the baselines, they are also being updated, making A the best answer because approved changes must be reflected in the project management information. So any changes must also be traceable. So you need to update them, making A the best answer. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. Right, the next one is practice question number 36. A feature requested by users is low effort but provides a no meaningful value. What should the project manager recommend? So the project manager is supposed to recommend. Our problem statement is there's a feature that is being requested here, okay? And it has got low effort, but there is no meaningful value. So one of the mindset is to make sure that whatever you do in the project is adding value, either to business or to the project. So let us go through the answers to see what the project manager should recommend. Evaluate whether it supports value before adding value, before adding it, okay? This makes sense. Evaluation is very important. I like the word evaluation. You're getting more information before you take action. Edit because it is easy, okay? You don't just start by acting. You need to evaluate and understand, okay? If it's going to help in this scenario, where they suppose the value before you edit. So making this incorrect answer. Edit secretly to impress users. Everything must be transparent in a project. That's a good ethics of a project manager. So this becomes an incorrect answer. Replace higher value work automatically. Okay, you don't do this in a project. You don't just go and replace high value. Because something which has got high value, it must be protected in a project environment. So making this an incorrect answer. And in this scenario, the best answer is A. You need to evaluate whether it supports value before adding it. So evaluation is very important. You get more information. And what is our reference to our PM book is you're supposed to focus on value principle. And what is our mindset that is applicable here is do not confuse low effort with high value. Something might have low effort, but in terms of value, you're not getting much. So it might not be even necessary to add that specific activity in a project environment. Making A the best answer because work should be prioritized by value. There's no project that you're going to do which doesn't add value. Then why are you doing that project? Not by effort. So making A the best answer. Practice question number 37, okay? The team is unclear about the project's external regulatory environment. What should the project manager do, right? So the problem here is the team is unclear about the project's external regulatory environment. That's our problem statement. So let's go through the answers now. Identify applicable constraints and incorporate them into planning. Okay, makes sense. Ignore external factors because they are outside the team. We don't ignore external factors, especially if it's something's regulatory, it means it's mandatory. So making this incorrect answer. Let the customer handle everything without informing the team. This is not supposed to be done by the customer. If anything is customer is a stakeholder in the project. If there's anything they have to do, it's going to affect the project. So therefore, you should be involved, making this incorrect answer. Proceed without analysis. This is very dangerous. You don't proceed in a project environment without analysis. You need to understand what is the effect, what is the impact of this external regulatory item, making this an incorrect answer. Therefore, the best answer in this scenario is A, which is identify applicable constraints, okay, and also incorporate them into planning, right? So what is our reference in our PM book is going to be on adopt a holistic view principle. What does it say? Holistic view considers wider system, interactions, dependency, stakeholders, constraints, and also consequences before acting. So the best mindset in this scenario is to consider the broader system and also constraints, making A the best answer because it's looking at a holistic view for external influences such as regulation or even compliance. Right. A project decision. Practice question number 38. A project decision may reduce short-term cost but create long-term operating waste. What should the project manager consider? What is our problem statement here? A project decision may reduce short-term cost, okay, but it's going to create long-term waste, right? What should the project manager consider? All right. So the first answer is sustainability and long-term impacts before recommending a decision. Okay, it makes sense. Only the cheapest immediate action. Cheapest action. This is what is making this answer incorrect. Something might be cheap, but might not be the best. Only the fastest option, regardless of consequences. This is the same like B above. Something might be the fastest, but might not be the best answer in this scenario. Okay. Hiding long-term effects from stakeholders. Never hide anything. Be transparent and honest in a project environment, making this an incorrect answer. So the best answer here is A, which is sustainability and long-term impacts before recommending a decision. And what is our reference here? Is integration, all right? Integrate sustainability within all project areas. What does it say? So the sustainability principle encourages, okay, consideration of long social environment and also economic impacts throughout the project. This is very important. So what is the mindset that is applicable here is you need to balance short-term delivery with long-term impact. So in this particular scenario, the project decision, it has got a short-term cost, okay, that is going to reduce it. But in terms of long-term, there's going to be operational waste. So the best that the project manager should consider is sustainability and also long-term, making A the best answer because sustainability requires consideration of long-term value and also consequences and not only immediate cost, making A the best answer. If you want to understand more and to learn more about PMP mindset, I've created a full video on PMP mindset, about 30 mindset that you can go through. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. You can also download the 30 PMP mindset questions. I'll also leave a link in the description below. Then practice question number 39. The team asks whether a risk is positive or negative. How should the project manager respond? So the team is expecting the project manager to respond. They want to understand whether the risk is positive or is negative. So let's go through the answers now. Risks can represent threats or opportunities. Okay, you want to respond as a project manager. The difficult level here is easy. All right, all right. Risks are always negative. Risks can be opportunities or even threats, negative or positive. So this one is not correct. Risks are only scheduled delays. Risks can also be even on costs, on quality, and everything else in a project. So it cannot only be considered to be scheduled, making this incorrect. Then risks are the same as issues. This is not correct. A risk is something that can affect the project deliverables, a future event that can affect the project's deliverable. An issue is a materialized risk. So making this an incorrect answer. So the best answer here is A. Risk can represent both threats and also opportunities. This is very important. Okay, a risk can be an opportunity, or it can be also a threat. What is our reference is a risk performance domain. All right, and what is applicable mindset in this scenario? You need to treat uncertainty as both threat and also opportunity. So this is very important. You need to consider risk either as a threat or even as an opportunity, making A the best answer, because risk management addresses uncertainty events that can also have a positive or even a negative effect in a project, making A the best answer. Right. Practice question number 40. A stakeholder says they were not included in requirements discussion. What should the project manager do? So what is our problem statement here? A stakeholder was not included, okay, in requirements discussion. So when requirements were being discussed, a stakeholder was not included. That is what they are saying, all right? So what should the project manager do? Review stakeholder identification and engagement, then include the stakeholder, appropriately. So this makes sense. We leave it like this. Continue without them because discussions have already happened. This is not the best mindset to include. If a stakeholder is complaining that they were not included, then you need to put effort to understand what is their communication needs, what is their engagement needs, so that you can aid them and communicate with them in future discussions. So making this an incorrect answer. Ask the stakeholder to approve without reviewing anything. A stakeholder must be satisfied for them to approve anything. So making this an incorrect answer. Remove the stakeholder from scope decisions. You don't remove stakeholders. They're the ones who are supposed to make decisions on scope. They're the ones who are supposed to own the deliverables from the project, making this an incorrect answer. So A is the best answer in this scenario. You need to review stakeholder identification, engagement, and then include them in the appropriate way. So the word review is going to help you to gain more information. Remember, what are you supposed to do first, or what are you supposed to do as a project manager? So the first thing is to understand, to get more information. So how do you get information? You need to identify what the stakeholder is actually looking for. So that means in future, this stakeholder is going to be involved in this requirements discussion. So what is our reference in the PMBOK? Stakeholder performance domain, which is on page 67. What is the best mindset here? You need to assess stakeholders when gaps appear. So stakeholders in a project, they always change. Okay, some they come in, some they go. So you need to assess their stakeholder needs and also the gaps in terms of communication. All right, making A the best answer, because missed stakeholders can create scope or acceptance problems. Or so engaging should be done in the correct way. If you miss a specific stakeholder, like in this case, they are saying they were not included, which means they were missed in the requirements. It will create problems. So always make sure you engage and you also involve the stakeholders, making A the best answer in this scenario. If you want me to create more videos based on what we've gone through in this video, you can reach out to me or you can let me know in the comment section below.